Alright, so today we're going to go over how you can do a complete duct install done by one person without needing two people for the job. So again, this is for just one duct install. If you own an air conditioning company and you're doing a full duct install, obviously one person doing 15 or 16 ducts, this is not an efficient way to do it, but this is for that one residence that needs just one duct added to a room. So hopefully if this video is helpful, it may help your employees. If you own an HVAC company, have them watch it, and hopefully it'll help them get the job done, and it will give them a good visual on how to do it. Here are the things you're going to need. Obviously you're going to need your boot that's going to come on down from your ceiling or from the floor if you're doing this underneath, like in a crawl space underneath. In an attic, this is what you're going to need. Obviously you're going to need the duct itself, so whatever size duct you'll need. And then of course you're going to need the register or grill, as this will come in, it'll look like this once it's in there. With that, you're going to need two of these starting collars, which when they go in, you're going to bend the tabs. We'll show you how to do that. So you're going to need two of these. One that's going to come here, one that's going to come from the source of where you're going to be bringing the air from. So you're going to need two of them. Okay. You're going to need a can of spray foam, and you'll see it utilized on the video, of course. Let's get that out of the way. You're going to need safety gloves. You're going to be dealing with a lot of sharp objects here, so you're going to need safety gloves, don't forget. You're going to need metal tape. So we use the Nashua one, but it's up to you. Just make sure it's the silver metal tape. Very important. You're going to need a squeegee to get the tape in there perfectly. Don't forget that. You're going to need, this is a mastic adhesive or duct sealant that you can use from your caulking gun, so we like to have that. And of course just regular white latex or silicone is fine. You need that as well. You're going to need a duct knife, your duct knife, you need that. So there's our duct knife. You're going to need these zip ties, and this is going to be used to wrap around your starting collars. So just make sure they're long enough that they'll go around the collar. So you might want to just go like this when you get them and make sure they go around the collar. These are only 18 inches, which is not very long. But again, we're going to be doing a 4-inch duct installation. And of course, you're going to need duct sealant. So make sure you get it water-based is what we prefer. And what I will do is everything that you see in the picture here, I will post it in the description down below. If you're watching this video on a PC or if you're watching it on a phone, you'll see it on the video description. And one thing that's really important is a little piece of cardboard came with the grill that we started off with. Don't throw it away, because we're going to show you how to create a template so you can cut the hole in the attic. So once we have all this, let's try to do as much as we can without getting into the tight space, whether it's an attic or underneath the residence. So you want to try to do as much as you can where it's comfortable to work with, and that's what we're going to do next. We're going to show you a couple things that you can do before you get into that tight space. One more piece of equipment that I forgot to mention that we just made, and this will make sense later once we're in the attic to show you why this will help making the install possible by one person, is what you see here. It's a piece of 2x4 with some ends on it, and from this screw to this screw is exactly 24 inches. So we're dealing with 24-inch centers on the studs, and this is going to help hold down your boot while we are trying to get the grill in from the inside. So we'll show that once we're already doing the install, but it'll make more sense then. Here is the actual boot, and we already know that it's 8 inches this way, 4 inches this way. So you can either go and cut into the drywall or the wood floor or whatever using that, or you can get the cardboard that came with it and cut this 8 by 4 inches. And I'll show you why this kind of helps out a little bit. But from the attic, once you have this with you, you can just place it over the drywall, and then or from the inside even, you can use some double face tape, which we've done before, and put it here and tape this to the drywall, and you already have your template kind of where you want it, and then you can just cut. But it's just a little, if you've never done it before, it will help you. If you've done this many times before, it's second nature. You just measure the opening, it's 4 by 8, so you're good to go. To show you what I meant by cutting that little template, here's just a sample. So as you can see, it's just over the size of the metal. So you can use this, like I mentioned, you can put some double-sided tape here, put it over the ceiling, and then just cut around the template, and you know exactly the exact size where this is gonna fit into. That's just something extra if you want to do it that way, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're going to cut a hole right in the center, and you want to fit the collar in there, and these tabs are going to bend inward all the way around, and then we're just going to tape this to this. Remember, we're trying to save as much time doing this before we get into the tight environment. So the best way to do it is to flip it over. Make sure it's rounded. If it's been a little bit ovalized, you can just round it up. Flip it over like so. Try to get it centered so that you can see it's right in the center. Once you get it in there like that, then just take a black Sharpie and you're going to trace it around, and then we're just going to start cutting into it. Once you have it traced, then reach and use your duct knife. And what you're going to do is you're going to drop your duct knife into any one of these areas straight down, and then start cutting using this side here, the side that's serrated. So you want to use that side. As you can see, we now have the hole already cut. Then the next thing we're going to do is fit our starting collar into it. You want to kind of bend these tabs inward just a little bit so it's easier to get it in there. Make sure you're wearing gloves. Get that in there like that. Falls into place. And then you're going to flip it over and bend the tabs inward. So here are your tabs. Then you just start bending them inward. That's what's going to keep the collar from falling out. We're also going to tape it on the other side, but bend these tabs inward. Just like that. On the sides, it might not be possible. Just get the ones that you can bend inward, get them bent. So that's the way it'll look. You can bend them a little bit more. It's up to you. Then you're going to flip it over, and we're going to add our tape into it. And with the metal tape, we're then going to use our squeegee to make sure the tape is in there nice and snug. There it is. So it's all been taped, and if you look closely, the tape is nice and tight. Don't forget to use your squeegee. That's what we use to get it done. And one thing that I like to do to prevent having issues with the M word, often used in the HVAC industry. I'll say it, mold. To prevent mold is I also use silver tape and wrap it around the collar, for the reason being that there's little holes here used to put in a damper, and then you have this part here where it's kind of like the union where it comes together. So I tape it around and then I squeegee it nice and tight, get it done, and this is already ready to go. So try to get as much work done before getting in the tight environment that you're going to work in. Okay, so location here, we're going to go like right around this area for the grill. And the only reason is because right here we have a wall, an outside wall, and the way that the roof comes down in the attic, we'll show you in a little bit, it's going to be a little bit too tight. So location will be here. This is a small utility room, that's why it's a 4-inch duct. So if you're planning to put a small duct like in a bathroom or utility, it's fine. You don't need to worry about location if it's going to be closed most of the time anyway. But for a bedroom, you do kind of want to center it. The center would be right here where the light is. So we're just going to go a little bit off to the right. Okay, so what we've done here is we just used the template that we mentioned before. I actually have it here, and traced it on there. I also traced the actual boot in there to kind of know what I'm doing, where it's going to go. But the reason why on the previous video this is a little bit off to the right from that light is we really don't have much space there to work, so we brought it a little bit closer to away from the actual drop on the roof line. So it's going to go there, and we're going to go ahead and use our tool to make 4 holes on the 4 corners, and then we'll show you what we're going to do from the inside. So you can see the 4 holes that we got in there on each corner with our little tool, and we're going to show you what we're going to do on the inside now. All right, so there we have our 4 holes that we just showed you from the attic. And all we're going to do from the attic, or you can do it from down below, but I prefer from the attic, is just cut around there from point to point. And one thing I like to do, and here's a very good tip for you, is use something to catch the dust. If you're at a customer's house, you don't want dust all over the place. So what I did is I got this little box, and notice that the box is not very deep, because that piece of drywall is going to fall into this box along with all the dust. And if you notice, I have 4 pieces of strong adhesive double-sided tape that's going to hold this onto the ceiling, so all the dust is going to be basically trapped in there. Okay, so that's a good tip for you. This is the tape we used. It's very strong and it's very thick, and that box is not going to go anywhere, but I will post a link to where you can get this tape. This tape is really amazing. I strongly recommend it for handiwork and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and get started from the attic. So when your box is up there, that's basically how it should look. Like I mentioned, I don't like to get a box that's too deep, because that piece of drywall is going to fall in that box and the force might just push it out. So just get one that's not too deep, maybe 2 inches deep, but long enough to fit the whole entire drywall. So let's go ahead and get cutting. There it is, folks. My little tool made the hole, and well, you see there's actually the box that captured all the dust and the actual piece of drywall, so you don't mess up your customer's home. And again, you don't need someone down below holding it. So we're trying to do this as a one-man show to show you that it can be done. You just got to use proper techniques. So there's the view from the inside. You can see the attic. And here is our box with all the dust and the piece of drywall there too. I actually took the tape off the sides, you can see it here. But think about this for a minute. How much of that dust would have been in your customer's house, including that piece falling down from the ceiling? It could probably fall on someone. If you're doing this by yourself, you don't want that to happen. So this tape is good. You just have to know how to pull it out and There's instructions on how to do that once you buy the tape. But anyway, here is everything that could have gone below. That's what it looks like once it's in there. And these flaps, if you will, these metal dog ears that are hanging over, there's one that's actually tucked underneath this 2x4. So it's kind of holding it down, which is good. We want to do the same thing on the other side to hold this thing down while we get the actual grill from the inside in there. But before we do that, I'm going to pull this out and just point something out. I like to put a good amount of adhesive just on the inside here, because when you put this down in there, it's going to seal it. And remember, in the HVAC industry, we don't like the M word. Remember what the M word is? Mold. So getting this sealed all around will prevent heat from the attic, which can reach over 130 degrees in some areas, to get into conditioned air coming out from here. When you get cold air coming out with hot air mixing, you're going to have condensation, which will lead to eventually mold if it doesn't dry thoroughly. So I'm going to do that next, and we're going to get it back in there. So there it is. Don't be afraid to get plenty of that in there. Just don't get it on yourself. And we're ready to drop that in there, and that's going to create a nice little seal for your customer. Okay, if you remember earlier in the video, we talked about this piece that we have there, a piece of 2x4 with those white ends. And what we're basically going to do is we're going to drill it onto the studs. And what it's going to do, it's going to hold it down for us. So we'll be able to get the grill in there. Remember, we're doing this as a one-man show. This part, like we mentioned, is tucked in here, underneath here, the dog ear or the metal flap. That side is being held down. But if needed, you would need to do two of these. One over there and one over here. But this is kind of holding this down. So we're going to screw that in there on both sides, and we're ready to go. Also, keep it as far away as you can from the collar, because you will get the duct in there, and then eventually you can take that off before you leave the house. So there we go, folks. There's that piece that we fabricated. Just an idea that would help many if you're doing this by yourself. Now you're going to hold that boot down real well, and you can work by yourself from the inside without having someone in the attic pushing down on this, so you can get it screwed in there. So let's go ahead and get the grill next. So it's up to you. Once you have that piece that we fabricated with a 2x4, you can leave it there permanently forever. It's up to you, or you can just take it with you, use it for other jobs. And then what you'll do is you'll get some screws like this, like these here, and put them on the inside just to hold that boot down into the ceiling before you get the grill. So that's exactly what we're going to do next. All right, so a couple things I want to point out here. You have your drywall screws that are now in place, and what they're doing is just holding down that boot. You want to make sure you're always on the inside of where the grill's going to go. So if you want to put your grill in there first and get like a small, very light pencil mark and mark where it is, so you're always inside that mark, which we did. You're good there. And you can see we also marked the holes where the screws that come with the grill are going to go. Also, we spread out a little bit of the adhesive just to make sure that we cover everything in there, so we don't have to worry about the M word later. But we're ready to put our grill in. So grill is now in place. We're going to go now in the attic and finish up everything else that has to be done from inside the attic. So everything from inside the home is actually done now. So the rest of the work we got to do is inside the attic. Let's go ahead and do it. Or if you're in a crawl space like underneath the home or basement, then that's where you would do the rest. So this is the supply plenum of the air handler. You can see the refrigerant lines coming in there. And what we're going to do is connect that duct right around here. You have a stud in the middle here, so it's it's a 4-inch duct, so that'll be enough to get it right around this area. And we're going to basically cut using our duct knife like we did when we did the cutout for the boot. So let's go ahead and do that and show you the finished product. Okay, we are always full of tips here, so here's another tip. When you cut the opening for your collar on the unit, make sure that the collar, that the actual cut, it's like a pumpkin cut, so it should be angled inward. And what that means is you're gonna cut it this way. If you cut it straight, this piece right here is gonna fall inside your plenum, and now you're gonna have another problem on your hands. So make sure you cut it at an angle, just like we showed you the piece here. I don't know if you can appreciate that there. You can see it in there. Now, here's another thing. Sometimes customers will complain that they're having bits of fiberglass in their unit. Guess what's going to happen with all those shavings when you turn the unit on? It's going to go right through the duct and into their home. So a simple suggestion is, if you have like an old stocking or sock that you can place over the collar. Stockings are good because they're very flexible. Turn the unit on, get all that in there, out of there, into the stocking, and then you can continue with your installation. It'll look like this. So it'll capture all those little fibers and prevent them from going inside the house. All right, next step, we're going to use Pro Seal duct sealant, and you want to make sure that this is flexible. There we go, smooth and flexible, because we're going to apply it on the inside liner of your ductwork. So here's your ductwork. You have the outside vapor barrier, you have the fiberglass insulation, and you have the inner lining. You want to apply that on the inside because that's going to go over that collar. And then we're going to use one of these straps to strap it down. So you want to make sure it's sealed on the inside. You don't want any air escaping, so don't be afraid to put as much as you want in there. Just don't overdo it, but just get plenty in there and we're ready to go. All right, so it's in there. We got our strap in there nice and tight. We're gonna make sure the insulation is tucked in there nicely. And then the outer vapor barrier, the silver part, is what's gonna be taped. We're gonna use the metal silver tape. And then we're going to, at the very end, we're gonna apply mastic adhesive duct sealant around it. So let's go ahead and do the next step. All right, so we got now our outer vapor barrier already in place. We used our little squeegee to get the silver tape in there. And you can see that the silver tape is down on the boot and on the outer vapor barrier. Insulation in there is tucked in nice. So now we're going to do the other end into the unit. So on the end that's going to go into the unit or your plenum or mixing box, same thing. You're going to seal the inside with the mastic adhesive that comes in a tube. You're going to get it over the collar, use your strap, and then tape the outer lining. Next step is using the duct sealant. We're going to put that on both ends, on the boot, from the duct to the boot, and also on the side where it connects to your plenum or your junction box. So let's go ahead and do that. I do like to use latex gloves, so just dip your hand in there and just smear it all over the place between the duct and the connection, and you should be fine. So there we have our mastic adhesive. Notice that we covered the box. The reason is, remember, the box is made out of metal, conducts heat, it gets really hot. You can somehow wrap the box, and also where the boot or the box meets the ceiling, you might have some little openings down there, and what we did is we also took care of that. So there's no gaps in there where heat from the attic can sneak in there. After all it's said and done, we're going to put the insulation back over it and make sure it's insulated all the way around, and therefore it will be ready to go.